Listening to the Casting for Fun podcast, the show that talks about entertainment, sports, music, and inspirational stories for all to enjoy. We're glad that you could join us today. Please sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Now, here is your host, Albert Pineda.
Welcome, everybody, to the Casting for Fun podcast. I am your host, Albert Pineda, and this is for Tuesday, April the 25th, 2023. My very good friend Marcello Ambriz returns to the show to talk about a variety of topics, which is always awesome and really cool. Music, his trip to South America, the English Premier League, Dodger baseball, so many other great topics that we touch on. Mostly music, primarily on music and collecting music. But before I get to Marcello, I wanted to address a few things really quick. I hope everybody got a chance to listen to my Super Mario Brothers movie review episode from last week with Nathan Wolf. It was actually pretty cool if you did, and you may have noticed that a specific theme song was used to intro the episode, which I thought maybe I might have get dinged for, maybe a little bit in trouble, but no, I kind of flew under the radar, which is kind of cool. The Casting for Fun podcast tends to do that. So I'm excited that I can maybe pull. I don't want to press my luck, but I might be inclined to use certain music moving forward. But again, I might have to record two different or edit two different episodes or two different versions of a specific episode. One that features my traditional music that is 100% license free, and one that might fall in a little gray area. And that's going to be in keeping in mind for next month in May, because I'm actually going to be doing 3 episodes dedicated to Star Wars. So May is going to be Star Wars month. It's going to be really, really cool. Lots of great guests coming on to talk about all things Star Wars. So I'm really excited for that. But before that, we get to this week's episode with Marcello, where I felt inclined to do an episode talking about music, because I know Marcello loves collecting music as much as I do. And in honor of Record Store Day, which was just this past weekend, I wanted to talk about his time working at Tower Records, collecting music for all these years, what we're listening to. For when it comes to music, I can talk for hours. So I'm actually really excited that Marcello was able to join me. And we touch on a variety of other topics as well, as I mentioned earlier in this intro. So here we go. This is my conversation with Marcello Ambriz. Returning to the Casting for Fun podcast is my very good friend, Marcello Ambriz. Marcello, how are you tonight, my friend?
What's up? I'm doing great. Just had a long day at work, but this was one thing I was looking forward to. So happy to be back.
Oh, thanks, man. Thanks. I love just catching up with friends and then talking about the things that we love. So I wanted to have a conversation about music collecting, because I know it's a huge passion of yours. And I mean, we back in the day, we would like share MP3s all the time and share music together. That was a really cool experience that we did back then. So, and because Record Store Day just happened this past weekend. So I don't know if you're really big on going to the vinyl shopping for stores, but it's a cool hobby that lots of people are getting into, which is really cool. So I just kind of wanted to have a conversation about that.
Yeah, man. I have to admit, man, like I think, when it came to like CDs, you would have like the American version, and then you would have like these Japanese imports that are like really cool, and sort of like I think for me it started there, and then obviously as like music became more ubiquitous, it kind of like buying the CD and was it was like a cost that you didn't want to take, because you knew you could find it somewhere else for cheaper. But I think with like vinyl in particular, like you're not only buying music, but you're buying like a piece of art, like just even thinking about like probably one of the most popular albums, like Sgt. Pepper's. It's like such like an iconic album. So you're not only are you buying amazing music, you've got like a great visual to go with it. And, seeing, those guys and the way they dress. I mean, I think with vinyl, it's an added sort of like incentive to buy, you know, to buy that like music form, because it really does like kind of give you more money than what you paid for. You get your money's worth.
Oh, absolutely, man. Like I kind of touched on this on a previous episode that I did last year, but I got into collecting vinyl specifically because I was just randomly shopping at the IKEA near where we used to live in West Covina. And then like I saw like at the downstairs area. I mean, you have to be careful at IKEA. It's very easy to get lost there.
Right.
Yeah, but anyways, I saw like in like the home decor section, they had like the perfectly framed like square frame picture frames for vinyl records. And I'm thinking to myself,
Oh, nice.
it'd be really cool to like, just start a collection, collecting them and buying them. And then my collection started to get so big that I figured might as well buy a record player so I can actually listen to the vinyls that I'm collecting.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, like, again, I mean, sonically, it's, everyone's going to say it sounds more warm. And like, I totally agree. It's like cliche, but it's true. But, you're buying music and you're buying a piece of an art, it's great. I mean, like, think about like some of the more sought after like reissues are ones that have like a different color vinyl. So sometimes a pink, see through, different colors. Like if you did that on a CD, it's not as impressive, looking at something so small that looks colorful, but if it's bigger and something that you can actually like hold with your two hands and you inspect it and it's like there in front of you, it's like, again, it's like a piece of art. So it's like, whether you're hanging them on your wall or you're listening to them, it's like, it's enriching your life, one way or another.
Oh, absolutely, man. Absolutely. So I have a question that I wanted to ask you. I usually ask all of my music enthusiast friends to see if they can remember, because I think music is so impactful for us that most of us probably can remember this. Do you remember what was the very first album you ever purchased, regardless of format, whether it's CD, vinyl? I mean, obviously we're both old men, so we probably bought CDs, but I mean, the kids today could probably tell you what was the first MP3 album they purchased. So for you, what was your first album?
Oh my gosh. So the first album that I ever bought it's sort of weird. I bought I bought Bob Marley Legend. Like, I don't know who's I think I'm not the only one. I know a ton of other people have done it, but I have purchased it for the first time, for their first time.
Yeah.
But and I got a single of Duran Duran's Ordinary World.
Oh wow.
And you know what? I think they had performed it on like an award show, and it was like, and I watched it, and I was like, so beautiful. I mean, I'm sure you know how it sounds like.
Mhm.
It was like so beautiful, and I was like moved, and I was like, thumbing through the singles at the warehouse in Covina, and like it's there, like smack dab where I could just grab it. It wasn't too tall, too like it almost like if it were waiting for me. And I
Uh-huh.
got it, and it's so crazy because like the single, I can picture it now, and I know it's some variation of what I'm going to explain, but it's like sort of like a collage of old black and white photos.
Mhm.
I think that's what it is. And then I got Bob Marley Legend, so I got those two like pretty polar opposite styles of music, if you will,
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure, man. Now, actually, going on back on the concept of the album covers, if I'm not mistaken, the Duran Duran self-titled album that had that song and then Come Undone, I think it's a collage of like all the band members' parents' wedding day pictures, something like that.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Because the theme is like engagement or wedding day photo,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's
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 kind of
it's
interesting. Oh,
it's
sorry to interrupt you, man, but it's kind of interesting that sometimes you don't always think about that, but the artists, they put a lot of effort into their album covers, I think, and like there's actually maybe hidden themes that we don't always see, but that they very
right.
much have on display, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's like it's another way to like express their sort of point of view is to sort of have like an actual visual representation of like what they feel at the moment. Yeah. I
Mhm.
wonder how many bands are like that today, but I know that like, you're still putting thought into it, one way or another.
Oh, absolutely, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait. So what was your first what was your first record?
Oh, okay. So this one's kind of a two-part answer. So like when I was really young, I'm gonna say probably 11 in like the early 90s when the Wayne's World movie came out. My younger brother Danny and I, we pulled our money together to buy the soundtrack on CD because we just heard
Oh,
like Bohemian Rhapsody and just absolutely loved it. So we were part of that generation that grew up with that song because of Wayne's World, you know.
oh, was that the first time you'd ever heard that song?
Yeah, before I never heard it before.
Yeah, it was the first time too, and I was like so blown away by it. And then, but like all my other friends seemed they're like, "Oh yeah, that's just Queen," and I'm like, how how have I never heard of Queen? Like with a banger like that, and
Yeah.
I not know what's going on, and me not know who they are. It's like, come on, like what is this? It's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. But for completionists who want to know, the very first album I bought entirely on my own that I didn't have to share with any siblings or anything was actually the Cranberries. Everybody else is doing it, so why can't we? So that's kind
Oh
of,
man.
I mean, at the time it got a lot of airplay on K Rock, but no disrespect to the Cranberries, but I think shortly after that, my taste got a little more like adventurous, as you will, not like kind of
Right.
playing it safe where it's something you can easily play in front of your parents listening in. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, it also kind of goes to show like what you're exposed to like artistically is what you end up appreciating more, right? It's like um so if it's like eh, you know how they're like back in the day we only had a few radio stations that we would listen to, like
mhm.
for me it was obviously K-Rock 106.7,
Yeah,
but then there was like Y107. Do you remember
I do remember why.
Y107?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like one was like a slightly heavier than the other one.
Uh-huh.
And but what I'm saying is like the more times you hear something, you end up liking it. So K Rock was probably playing Linger like nonstop, right?
At that time, yeah, 1993, 94.
Yeah. So you were probably like subliminally like, told to buy that album.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, that's
R.I.P.
interesting to
Dolores,
think.
by the way.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
they were a great brand. They were a great brand for sure. So, I mean, again, my musical taste varies. In fact, if you looked at the iTunes library that you and I and Nick had back in 2005, 2006, 2007, when we were all roommates, I mean, there was just tons and tons of musical genres that we all collected together, which was pretty cool.
Yeah. But I think the through line between all of us was our love for 311 and seeing them live. Heck yeah.
Oh, absolutely, man. And then actually, going back to your point, how you just mentioned about like what you're exposed to, I think kind of shapes your interests and tastes. My love for 311 really came from you guys. Like, I mean, just it was
Oh,
almost like
really?
hanging out with you guys, like going on road trips. Like we talked about it before, like road trip in your mom's car going to Fresno. And then some of the other ones at later shows that I would do, so much so that Nick and I would go all the way to New Orleans for 311 Day in 2010.
Yeah.
So things like that, Vegas trips. So it was like a way to bond with you guys and then enjoy something that was really cool and awesome. But I'm wondering, oftentimes I think like, did we have a passion for another band like that? Like, would we have done that for the Chili Peppers or Incubus or someone else like that?
Interesting. I mean, I probably don't think so because, a band like 311 is touring because like, a majority of like their income is coming from touring.
Yeah.
So my guess is like the demand is there, but also it fits in with their goals that they have. So
Mhm.
as a band, so I think like by them being as for them being as like busy as they are, they're only staying that busy because people want to see them, is
Yeah.
I guess what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And then because that happens so often, we were able to have all these like cool road trips like almost every year.
Yeah, it was actually kind of interesting. Like my wife and I were talking about that because there was that stretch of like, the summer unity tours where every single summer 311 was at the old Irvine Metals. So it was really cool. Just like, hey, I mean, when's 311 playing this summer? Okay, let's get tickets and go. So it was pretty
Right.
cool to have that level of consistency
Yeah,
that you
yeah.
don't really
I
get with
mean,
other bands. So
yeah. And dude, and I don't know if you post the video of this, but for those of you who can't see, obviously most of you, I have a fish hat on, and
Uh-huh.
I have a fish hat, and I went to see Fish on Saturday night, and I'll be honest with you, man. Like I had a predisposition before I got there. I just thought it's some like white hippie crap, and it's just a jam band, and I'm gonna smell like people's BO. Like it was like all negative. When I got there, I was just blown away that like, hey, there's so many people who are into Fish
Mhm.
and travel, but it really is sort of a testament to the music,
Yeah.
like because those guys are amazing musicians, dude. I like think about like Mahoney playing the guitar, like after drinking like 10 Red Bulls and just like jamming for 3 hours, essentially,
Mhm.
like an hour and a half. Then they take a 30-minute break, and then they take an hour and a half set. That's 3 hours of full on musicianship. It's
Yeah.
crazy. It's insane. It's a good time, man. I recommend anyone listening to this to catch one Fish show and buy a hat. Please do. Please buy a hat.
Very cool, man. Very cool. It's actually funny you mentioned that because I have other friends, so no connection to you at all, who were also there at the Hollywood Bowl on Saturday to see them, which was kind of cool to see their
No
picture.
way.
Yeah,
That's so funny.
yeah.
Did you expect them? Like, were you surprised that they were Fish fans?
I kind of was, yeah, because I knew. So it's my current employer. I mean, I've been with the company for many years now. Their daughter, who's older than me, with her husband and their kids. I know she was really big on key rock music, so like bands of the '90s. So your Soundgarden, Stone Temple Pilots, stuff like that. I
Yeah.
know she liked. But then all of a sudden she said, "Oh, we're at a Fish concert." So it might have been because of her husband's influence, but it seems like they had a fun time. So
Nice, nice. Yeah, it's a great time, man. I'd recommend it. Seriously.
awesome, man. Awesome. So I wanted to go back to the record store experience itself. So it's really cool that I remember when we first met. That was one of the things that I remember about you, that you had actually worked at Tower Records in West Covina. And that actually working
Yeah.
at a record store is one of those job experiences that I always wanted to have. I never applied, though. I really wish I had at some time in my youth. But I wanted to get your take on the experience of actually working at a record store.
Man, you know what? It was like my first like legitimate job ever.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so random. Like there was a person at our church who was like worked for Tower Records, but she was in charge of like the world and like Latin music and world and Latin music, something like that, right? That section. If anyone has ever been in that uh, Tower Records in West Covina, it's literally like if you're coming, it's like right behind the register, and it's like a small room, but like the lady who ran that section went to my church and was like, "Hey, do you want to work at Tower Records?" I did. I applied and I got it, and it was just fun, man. Like there was like I was like I felt like I genuinely felt like I was in a movie because
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like a freshman in college, and you see all these like for lack of a better definition, like alternative people, like they're people who, who like grunge, who were like wearing leather pants and emo was just like starting. So like having swooping, like having interest in hair and piercings and stuff. Like seriously, we had it all, man. It was so interesting. And
Mm-hmm.
like, if you remember, like Tower Records used to be open from like 8 a.m. to midnight. So like like the store was closed like only a few hours a day. Uh, but the craziest things would happen between 10 and midnight. Like the craziest things, like people rushing in at literally like 11:59 to find some obscure uh like um Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young album. Like it would happen all the time, and like getting assaulted by someone trying to uh, steal um, but like there's this one time I was taking out the trash and then they caught someone stealing, but that dude had to run towards the exit where I was leaving out of, and he like totally like knocked me over and it caused this whole hubbub, but he got away. And it was just like stuff like that would happen like a lot.
Mhm.
But it was also when I was like I'm sorry, I'm like feel like I'm rambling, but that was like from 12 to midnight was when like the people who really need music would put on their own the like the music that they liked, because from like from all day up to like 10 you're playing, I don't know, like the hottest thing that's at that time, like Smash Mouth, like Alice in Chains, Tool, like they were playing that stuff because they wanted to move that. But at midnight, I mean, I'm sorry, at 10, someone would put on trance music, some like Paul Oakenfold stuff, like from the like mid 90s to the late 90s, and
Mhm.
it was like amazing stuff. But then it was so good, people would come up to us and say like, hey, where can I buy this album? And they're all like, this is the only the copy that we were playing was the only copy in the store. So we were like teasing people. It was so funny why we would do that, and we would like try to like do the over under, like how many people you think are going to come up to us and ask us what we're playing. We did that all the time because it felt like it made us feel like more like it made us feel like we were cool, because we knew something that not a lot of people knew about. So yeah, it was cool, man. I loved it.
Oh, that's awesome, man. That I would imagine that would be the case. Your night owls wanting to come out and find the more obscure stuff, and it was really cool that the tower square footage was really big, so they had just massive amount of stuff to choose from, which is like really,
Yeah,
really.
yeah,
I mean, it's
I loved
unfortunate
it,
you go to
man.
a record store today, like the small indie ones. I mean, I'm glad that they're there and I'm glad that they're doing good business, but it's really kind of small that to the point where I used to love going to Tower and just lose myself for hours. But some of the small indie shops today, like by 30 minutes, I'm already done because I already looked through everything they had.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's just the way we consume media now,
Yeah.
like obviously if there were no MP3s or, streaming services, I think we would be more apt to like really like get lost in it. You may have not purchased like 10 albums by the end, but now like how the new like Muse album sounds like, or I was, dude, if it wasn't for, honestly, if it wasn't for like Virgin Record Store, I don't think I would ever have gotten into Arcade Fire, because when Neon Bible came out, I went into a Virgin, mega store, went in and they had it in one of their like, booths where you could listen to music. And I listened to that album and like three songs in, and I'm like, I don't care if the rest of the songs are horrible. Like these three songs are amazing. So I bought it based on that.
Mhm.
And then I went to my car and it's like, quite possibly like one of their best albums, like not commercially successful as like the suburbs, but
Yeah.
like yeah, yeah, yeah. And now
Oh,
I'm getting a little too heady about it, but yeah.
no, it's perfect, man. I definitely want to. In fact, I'm gonna. That's one of the questions I had, just like kind of what you're listening to now, because I definitely want to get your take on that. But what I wanted to ask before that was, what are some of the more rare, obscure stuff that you've been able to collect over the years? And I mean, are you still collecting in this digital age where you mentioned like streaming's kind of taking over everything?
Yeah, I mean, I don't buy music nearly as much. I did buy um an album by a guy named Gabriel DeRosa, and he's like a mutual friend. Like we're friends, but we're really um we have mutual friends, but we're like always he's my friend. He's my friend. Anyway, it's a great guy, right? He moved from here, he moved to the United States from Brazil in hopes of like making it into making like getting like a heavy metal band together and like playing that shit. And but then he would always keep on playing like these traditional samba, you know, tunes on his guitar. And there's a guy named Peter Butter Wolf who owns a company called Stones Throw Records, right?
Mhm.
somehow those two know each other, and Peanut Butter Wolf was like, yo, like you should record an album of like sort of traditional samba, like Brazilian music.
Mhm.
And then he's like, sure. So he ends up like making this album, and it's honestly like it's very beautiful, man. It's like if it's sunny outside, find that record and just like play it and listen to it and like experience, the warmth of the music, but of outside. It's just it really is like a beautiful album. And I know the guy, and he's like a bartender in Highland Park, and
Mhm.
several like bartending gigs. And I don't know, man, like someone who's striving for his, to reach his goal, but isn't prideful enough to, work hard and make sure that his needs are met, like
Yeah.
that he has the essentials in life. So I just wanted to help him out, and I bought the record. I still, haven't listened to it on, actual turntables, but I mean, I listen to it pretty often. And you know how Spotify has like that algorithm creates like a playlist after you listen to like a particular song or an album, it will
Mhm.
start playing similar music for you. Like the playlist that uh Gabriel DeRosa's album triggers is like a bunch of great like old and like modern like samba music. It's really, really beautiful. Yeah.
Awesome. I definitely want to check that out. So Gabriel De Rosa, you said?
Yeah. Hold on. I mean, I know no one's gonna be able to see it, but talk about like how we were talking about like works of art. Like,
Yeah.
look how beautiful this album. Oh, hold on. Um, yeah, this album is like so beautiful.
Oh, that's really cool. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, let's see if I can. There you go.
There we go. There. Oh,
Yeah. Anyway,
yeah. It's really good. So for listeners, take my word for it. Marcello's not exaggerating. It's really good.
yeah. So yeah, that was like the last piece of music, but I think I can listen to anything I want to. You know, at any given moment, if I want to listen to the Beatles, I can have a Beatles day, and I can like jump back and forth. And maybe if I'm tired of it for a few hours, I'll throw on a podcast. It's like it really is so convenient, and the appreciation is still the same. It's just like a different way of listening to it.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, I would definitely say there's no wrong way for taking in music, because music such a such a uh, meaningful, impactful way in our lives, and so any way you take it in is great. But again, for the record store experience, again, just going there, flipping through, like talking to other people about what they're listening to, I think it kind of builds on that experience so that you can discover new stuff that you didn't even know existed. So just sharing what you're listening to, however you're doing it, I think is actually really
Oh
cool.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, like I used to go to Rhino Records in Claremont
Uh-huh.
because there was a gal there that worked there who just had great taste in music, and
Mm-hmm.
I would go to her and I'd ask her like, "Hey, like, what are you listening to now?" And it was just like she showed me one of this. I think she showed me like some Chemical Brothers, uh, or Jungle Brothers, or something like just like really good. Where I was like, okay, this person here is knowledgeable about music because she everything that she's recommended has been sort of a knock out of the park. She knocked it out of the park. Yeah.
Oh, awesome. That's awesome, man. I don't know if she's still there though, because I know Rhino recently relocated. They're in Montclair now.
Yeah, I actually so that person, I saw her at the Trader Joe's in Eagle Rock,
Oh.
and yeah, and then I mean I'm assuming she lives in East LA now, or like
Uh-huh.
the east side of Los Angeles.
Yeah.
But and I wanted to like, hey, do you remember me? But I didn't, because the thought of her not remembering such a like very sacred experience that I've had, like, receiving her music recommendations. If she didn't remember that, I'd be crushed. So I just
Oh.
oh, yeah, so I said I'm fine not approaching her on this one.
Yeah, I totally get that, man. So then what do you recommend now? What's kind of piqued your interest, or something new that you've discovered, or maybe not so much new, but just something, I this is a new release that I'm really enjoying?
Let's see here. Like I said, my friend's album, Gabriel De Rosa, uh, that's really beautiful that I've been listening to. I have a friend, his name is Obli, Obli, and he's like a DJ, and he just put together a lot of like cool, like sort of it's I want to say it's dancing music. I mean, I really like it.
Mhm.
He just put out his first EP. That's amazing. And sort of like, kind of falling in love again with like albums that I was like obsessed with like a few years ago, like listening to Band on the Run by Paul McCartney. Like,
Mhm.
holy smokes, man! Like, what a masterpiece! Like, I remember I was listening to the album so much that the people around me like got annoyed and they banned me from listening to Paul McCartney. Yeah, no,
Mhm.
but it happens. It happens. Like Paul McCartney sort of like really enjoying actually I'm gonna do a little cheat because I'm gonna see what I've been searching because I'm sort of drawing a blank right now.
Oh no, you're fine, man. You're fine.
Let's see.
But speaking of Paul McCartney, though,
Um
I mean, just a little throw in I'll do for you. Like I remember you mentioned you went to go like listen in to him playing at Dodger Stadium without going to the stadium, right? Just from the out from the parking lot, or where were you when you listened to him?
yeah, so like I was in the parking lot and I think the show was sold out and I'm like there's no way that I'm not going to try to get as close or at least take a to like look at a
Mhm.
living Beatle. So I was like, okay, I went to the box office, completely sold out. So I'm like, okay, next best thing is I'm just going to listen to the show from like the pavilion area in Dodger Stadium, and then I thought I had seen like a clear entrance into the show, so that and I tried to sneak in, and security caught me, and they kicked me out. But like I was being a bit of a like a thorn in their side because as they were escorting me out, they said, "Okay, you got to leave." So I was like zigzagging through cars on my way out, and then I realized like, oh, these guys could potentially ban me from Dodger Stadium, which would have been a travesty if they had. But yeah, I tried to sneak in, and like honestly, I think uh, if he tours again, which is probably most likely he will. I'm going. Like I don't care if I'm the last seat or hanging from like a roof somewhere. Like I want to physically see a Beatle. So
Okay,
yeah,
yeah, very cool, man.
yeah. Um, I mean, there's like a lot of random songs. Like I love Bad Bunny currently.
Mhm.
There's this like BTS song that I'm like really digging right now. Um, and like, okay, yesterday I spent all day listening to Less Than Jake.
Oh, really? Wow, that's kind of random.
Oh my gosh, dude. Okay, so I was at a pizza joint on Saturday night, and someone had played Johnny Quest Thinks We're Sellouts.
Oh, that takes me back, man.
Okay, so like I was like, oh, okay, like I'm just gonna get in my car, I'm gonna drive to where I'm gonna go next, and I'm gonna play Losing Streak by Less Than Jake, right?
Mhm.
And I was surprised that I think I remembered like like I want to say 75% of all those lyrics. I mean, I listened to that album like religiously in
Mhm.
my senior year.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, dude, like Johnny Quest Thinks We're Sellouts. Like, what if that's a bop, man? That's like an amazing song, dude.
Mhm.
Um, but just like ska in general, I think like I was thinking about this the other day. It's like, sometimes we kind of like poke fun at ska, but the reality is like it's a really it's such a good it's like dancey, upbeat, like it really energizes you. It's like I know I've been overusing this word, but it's like really beautiful.
Oh, absolutely, man. I totally agree. Yeah. Awesome, man. Awesome.
Um, yeah, but so that's what I've been listening to. But like what are you listening to, man?
Oh, okay. I'm glad you asked, man, because I always like to share. So, I know you're big on the Smiths and Morrissey and Johnny Marr. Last year, I mean, I kind of did this every year. I pick like my favorite album of the year. Johnny Marr's last year's solo album, the Fever Dreams Part 1 through 4, was fantastic. Absolutely love that record. So that would be my pick for the best album of 2022 for last year. But more recent, I mean, there's been some great releases this year so far. Depeche Mode's Memento Mori was really, really good. In fact, maybe the best of the 21st century, which is kind of weird to say over the past like almost like 25 years since the year 2000. I guess 23 years. So Memento Mori is really, really good, and got to see them in concert recently. So that was fun. Metallica's new one's actually pretty interesting too. The 72 Seasons. It has a really unique album design because like it's like a broken crib in black with like broken instruments, and it's with the yellow background. So that's a really unique contrast. And then sometimes like the album cover can kind of spark your interest because some of Metallica's more recent album covers haven't been like super great, but that one actually caught my eye. So yeah, that one. What else? The Easy Star All Stars finally released another record. I mean, they just take their time, and they just did a cover of Ziggy Stardust.
No way.
Yeah, check that one out because I know you were really big on the Easy Star All Stars from before, and they just because the last one was Thriller, which was back in 2012. So it's been 11 years since their last cover album. But yeah, Ziggy Stardust, definitely one I'd recommend checking out.
Oh, that's a clever name.
Yeah. And then one more I'll throw out too, because they just performed at Coachella this past weekend. The Gorillaz new one, Cracker Island's pretty good. I wasn't really big on the Gorillaz, but I gave it a listen. Like, this is actually pretty good.
Yeah, I was on a Gorillaz kick like a few weeks ago, and just thinking about how the type of music like Blur was making, and then like they take a hiatus, and then Damon Albarn like creates like a whole new world, whole new band, and the music like was so sonically different than Blur, but it was like so new and amazing, a good concept. It was like that was just like, that's brilliant. That's amazing.
No, absolutely, man. Yeah. So it's like we mentioned before, it's just really awesome and cool how you can take in music in so many ways, because I love streaming as well, because again, of all these albums I just mentioned, the only ones I own would be the Johnny Marr one and the Depeche Mode one. So the other three I've just been streaming through YouTube Music. And it's really cool. Like Marcello said, like with the algorithm, you can just discover new stuff that way, which is fun and cool. But for those who are listening, I definitely would recommend taking a stroll in your local indie record store if you haven't recently, because I think there's some cool things you can find.
Yeah. I mean, also, and sort of like the whole experience with buying records at a record store is like, I remember back in the day, like reps who would come and bring like records to the record store would usually drop off like promotional items. Like, so if you purchased 311 sound system, you got like a cool sticker pack for free because you purchased it there. And so it was always like, I may have purchased like 2 or 3, copies just so that I could get the, like, the extra like little tchotchke that they were giving out. And it was, it sort of, it was sort of like that Pokemon vibe, right? It's like, you got to catch them all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Did you have anything else with music that you wanted to share? I mean, if we wanted to, we could probably go all night talking about music, but I want to make sure you got a chance to share everything you wanted to.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure anyone who knows me knows that I've been sort of like obsessed with a band called Turnstile. And Turnstile, people have said this, and I can confirm that it's true, that it's like a mix of like Rage Against the Machine and 311. Like, it's like a perfect marriage of like the best things of both bands, and it's their album Glow On is like amazing. And speaking about like, kind of on the same theme of like consuming music in different ways. So they recorded that album, and then they did sort of a 4-song music video, and it's like shot in Puerto Rico, it's so beautiful. It's like visually so warm and interesting with a different lot of colors, textures, and stuff. I think it was all shot on film, but it's sort of a narrative that really doesn't go anywhere. But it's when you're in the moment, it's really cool. Yeah.
Awesome. Very cool, man. So I definitely want to check that one out as well. So shifting gears just a little bit. So I know through following you on social media, you recently had the experience of visiting South America. And in our previous discussion last year that we talked about, you mentioned, how much you love Buenos Aires, like it's a South American European city, essentially. So I wanted to just get your take. And then I know you also got to see Brazil. So, and Brazil obviously has a soft place in my heart for the time I got to serve as a missionary there for our church. So yeah. I wanted to get your experience, or you can share with the listeners, what was your experience visiting South America recently?
It was great. I mean, there's always going to be someone who's going to tell you that you need to be careful about certain places. And, South America, I mean, in particular, Argentina, it's fallen on like really hard times. And like, obviously people are resulting into thieving and stuff like that. But like, if you're smart and you're not like walking around with a American flag or something, like if you don't make yourself an easy target, like you'll be fine, just be smart. But I mean, all this to say is like, I mean, Argentina, I hadn't been to Buenos Aires in like since I think 2016 or 2017. And it's just like it hasn't changed. Like its charm has not changed. And it's just a really European city. It's like really spacious and green, and you've got new developments mixed in with like old buildings or retrofitted buildings that are selling for that like hundreds of thousands of dollars. But it's like it's a beautiful country, man. Like Brazil too. Like, oh my gosh, like we were in Sao Paulo, and my coworker and I, we went down to this like tennis court that you had to rent, but it was like sandwiched in between all these like tall buildings. So it was like, you didn't get much sun. It was like a lot in the shade, but you're just sort of blown away by how beautiful, like the beautiful location where you're at. Like, and then, like a tennis court in front of a bunch of buildings. It's like, who would have thought, and that it adds to its beauty and stuff. So I loved Rio. I loved Sao Paulo. We went to Chile and Colombia. Colombia was beautiful, man. Colombia was beautiful. It was like rainy, green. I mean, I wish I had more time there. It was really beautiful. But yeah. When's the last time you went out of the country?
It had to have been for missionary service. So yeah, back to 2000, 2001. Oh no, I take it back. My wife and our honeymoon was in the Bahamas. So that would have been 2014.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So the Bahamas are beautiful too. It was so great and awesome to see, and just how relaxed and So I mean, to get to travel would be awesome, especially foreign travel. Just right now, it's a little difficult with the kids being as young as they are, but as they get older, sure, we'll be able to do more of that, because my wife very much wants to go see Europe, and she's been before. So,
oh, that's amazing! Yeah. And it would be good for them to like experience it as well. The kids.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely, man, absolutely. Yeah. So hopefully you get the chance to go back and visit South America again soon and continue with your travels, because I know you're really big on that. And then Japan, that you got to see the Tower Records out there, which is really cool.
Oh, dude, that was dope. I loved it. Yeah. I bought a tote bag from there that I was using all the time, and I went on a tour and it disappeared. It was gone.
Oh, I'm sorry, man.
Yeah.
But to wrap things up for tonight, let's actually do a little bit of Dodger talk. So, I mean, it was cool, again, to follow you on social media and get to see that you were at a game recently with our mutual good friend, Sean Lovano, frequent guest on the show. So I'm wondering your take on the recent surge of offense from the teams, and what do you think about the pitch clock? Do you think that's actually having an effect? Because I've been listening to podcasts with like AM 570 correspondents like David Vassay and Tim Cates, they honestly seem to think that the pitch clock is actually one of the leading causes for the recent surge of offense we're seeing. So I was curious what your take is. I mean, do you like that? Or, I mean, how is the Dodger team looking right now?
I mean, I'll be honest with you. Like, I'm super consumed with English Premier League football right now that, like, I'm almost like there's a lot of baseball to be had, you know? So, but there was a report that someone put out recently where they were looking at this one pitcher from Toronto. I forget his name, Moa or something, but he's a heavier set guy and he's a starting pitcher. And the pitch clock is actually working against him because now he's not taking, he can't like recover fast enough within like the 25-second period. He needs a little extra time. So when he goes up there, he's throwing balls and he's tired. So it's like, you know, you're either not putting, you're essentially pitching a batter hittable balls. And so you end up seeing like, you know, a spike in offense because there are pitchers who aren't fully recovered from pitching the previous pitch.
Yeah.
So I hate the pitch clock. I absolutely hate it because for me, when I went to the game, all I was thinking about was how fast the game was going. Like, I was like, there are people who showed up around the 6th inning, and I'm like, yo, you guys have 30 minutes, 40 minutes like worth of baseball left in this game. Whereas before, I think they say that the pitch clock actually makes games 20 minutes faster. But I argue, like, who cares about 20 minutes? You're not only you're playing 20 minutes, the game lasts 20 minutes, but that means like what has happened in those 20 minutes. You get more ad revenue. You have more time to sell concessions. You have more time to do X, Y, Z. And so the pitch clock for me is I'm not saying it's ruining baseball because I'm not that dramatic, but it's ruining baseball.
That's a good take.
I think it's just not making it fun. I just don't think it's that fun. Like, why do I want to see a pitcher throw a ball that he's too tired to throw at 100%? You know, like, I'm sorry, man, but I think it's, you know what? I think in like MLB is probably saying like, you know what? We probably messed up here. This is a dumb rule. Let's go back after this season. I bet that happened.
Okay, we'll definitely see, man. It's documented here on the podcast, so we'll see what happens. But it is an interesting take. I'm glad you're able to show your thoughts on that. But I did want to ask you about when you got to go to the game with Sean. So, I mean, since the COVID restrictions have been lifted, I've only gone to one game with my family, and it was a blast. We had so much fun with the recent renovations. Very family friendly for the kids and stuff. So I was curious what you thought, and also like for the additional food options they have. The experience now versus maybe before. What did you think?
Oh, I mean, I think the food like options have always been decent, you know, but I know that they have I know that they have like more concessions, but can I brag about something really quick?
Oh, go for it. Yeah, of course.
So I know a few friends who know one of the Dodgers owners, and long story short, the first game of the Padres series for the NLDS
division series,
the division series. I was at that game, right?
Awesome.
And I'm like watching this game with one of the owners, and the owner keeps going like, "Hey, man, let's go downstairs," and he keeps on saying downstairs, but he was referring to like the bar that's right behind home plate, but not like the bar that people who have dugout seats go to. This was like the bar where like Sandy Koufax was watching the game.
Wow.
Like, dude, so I'm like, I pinch myself, and I know I'm sounding braggadocious, but like seriously, it was like I told my friends, I'm like, if this is my last day on earth, this would probably be like the best thing that's ever happened to me. And I got to sit at like literally like one row. I was like right behind home plate in the owner's box. And I probably sat in a seat where, Tom Lasorda may have sat like in previous years, but it was an experience. Like I told JT, like, come on, let's go, JT. And he looked at me and give me like a slight nod. Like that's how close I was. And so like, that experience of just like walking around and enjoying like Dodger Stadium, like, dude, they have like a whole buffet in the back, like catered by like, I don't know, Wolfgang Puck or some crap like that. Mm-hmm. But it's all Dodger Stadium will always be, in my book, like the best stadium ever. But there are no other stadiums out there, baseball stadiums, that will hold a candle to Dodger Stadium. And I understand there's some problematic history in Chavez Ravine. I get that, and I don't want to disrespect those people because it was a horrible thing that happened in Chavez Ravine. But I mean, it literally is like one of the best stadiums. I mean, ever. Best stadium in the world.
Absolutely agree, man. Absolutely agree. In fact, I mean, even before the renovations, I mean, it was just the perfect way just to go and spend a Friday night for a game. And then I love the renovations. It's actually really cool. It's made an inviting experience for my kids. And yeah. Nothing but great things about the Dodgers, regardless of how they're doing. But I think I do agree. I mean, sometimes too much offense is not necessarily a good thing, where like I'm looking at the score and it's like, oh man, they gave up like another like 15, 16 runs, however many it was. And then the next night they'll score that many. So go figure, right?
Yeah. Well, like, I mean, to me, it's like the lack of pitching, Mm-hmm. I mean, like, and also the fact that we have, I think, our shortstop, I keep forgetting his name. Miguel Rojas.
Yeah.
No. Is that it? Anyways, now Mookie's playing like shortstop. It's like, geez, like, I mean, we had our perfect chance of winning a World Series last year. We probably could have also kept Trey Turner and given JT another year. Mm-hmm. Like, we had so much to prove last year, and now we don't have anything to prove because we're just like a mixed bag of players right now. I mean, they say we're going to get Ohtani next year, but like, okay, cool, but you need a regular ass team behind, I don't know.
I mean, I guess that's the problem with the Angels are having, right? I mean, they got Mike Trout and Ohtani, and they're still bad.
Yeah, they're still bad.
So sorry, my Angels fans who are listening. But
well, I mean, you don't want them as fans if they're Angels fans. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Just kidding. Hey, I had a quick question for you.
Go for it.
And I don't like. So your daughter she's got to be exposed to music, right?
Oh, she absolutely is, from both sides of the parenthood. So from my side and from Allison's side as well, which it's an interesting dynamic, I think.
Okay, so like what song of her, what song that do you play that gets the biggest reaction out of her?
Oh, she loves Dead Man's Party by Oingo Boingo and Hello, I Love You by The Doors. Like, she can actually sing both of those songs.
No way.
Yeah, she can start saying like, it's a dead man's party. Who could ask for more? Come and leave your body at the door. And then she'll say,
no way.
I love you. Won't you tell me your name? It's really cute to hear her sing those songs. So yeah, like, our parents can have a huge influence. A lot of the stuff I still kind of listen to was music that both my mom and dad like. And that was kind of like my earliest experience or exposure to music was through my parents. So
yeah. No, I mean, my mom would play Motown all the time. Mm-hmm. Like, like I grew up listening to the Supremes and the Temptations and just pretty much like anything Motown. And
Mhm.
I don't particularly love that music now. I mean, of
Mhm.
course, you gotta love them. Like, they're all classicals, but
Yeah.
they're not classicals. They're all classic songs and
Mhm.
artists and whatnot. But yeah, it was yeah, it was it was an influence nonetheless.
Oh, absolutely, man. So yeah, thank you
Yeah.
for your time, man. This has been a really great, awesome conversation. And I know when it comes to music, I mean, we could go like till midnight if we wanted to. But any other
Yeah.
talking points you want to bring up before we wrap up?
No, man. I think I talked enough. But yeah, I can't really stress it. I can't really stress how important it is to just like listen to music. I started practicing something recently when someone responds to my question like what are you listening to, and they say a band that I don't like or I don't think is cool.
Mhm.
I'll try not to I'll try not to like make fun of them. Like I try to be like understanding why they like that music, you know. So
Oh,
instead of
I have
saying like,
a
"Oh, Taylor Swift is stupid," XYZ, I'll go like, "Oh, interesting. Like what? So like, what about it do you love?" You know. And maybe I'm asking just to be a butthole, but like, or an asshole or whatever. But yeah. Anyway, yeah.
Okay, so
I
one
try
more
to be
point I wanted to
positive.
bring
Try
up
to be
just because you mentioned it. So this past weekend at work, like one of our regular customers who comes in, and he's a big music fan too, and he knows that I love music. So he asked me, "Hey, what do you think of that band, Greta Van Fleet?" And I almost wanted to just chuckle at him. I was like, they're like the new Nickelback. Sorry, man.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know if there's anything inherently wrong. It's just like no one seems to really like them. I'm sorry.
Oh my gosh, I mean, I think for us who like grew up listening to Led Zeppelin,
Mhm.
we know it's like a direct carbon copy.
Yeah.
Come
Yeah.
on.
So sorry. I mean, they didn't really necessarily do anything bad. But I mean, I had to maybe give them another chance. But yeah, I listened to a few songs and thought maybe this sounds kind of cool. But nope, they just already have a bad reputation without doing anything wrong. So,
Yeah, yeah, no, I feel you. I feel you.
but oh, Marcelo, thank you for joining me tonight. This was always a blast to catch up with old friends. And then I think our
Yes,
conversation's fun and just music. I can talk for hours if we wanted to. But
yeah,
I
I
definitely want
love
to
it,
have you
man.
back on again soon, maybe for the Champions League final. I think that'd be really, really cool. Maybe get Derek back on too. I think that'd be a really fun
Oh
conversation.
yeah. Also, like my Arsenal, uh, they've messed up, man. They could have won the world. I mean, we're still in contention to win the Premiership, but uh,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. It's frustrating. Okay, man.
Yeah. But then also just quick shout out to Wrexham. I mean, really, really awesome and great. I was just so excited to see the team come up. And then yeah, I've been following them extensively ever since Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney bought the team. So
Yeah. Well, what's beautiful about that is like, those are millionaires who own like a football club.
yeah.
And you know, there's a difference between a millionaire and like a multi-billionaire family. Like these guys are putting a lot of money or raising a lot of money to help like a small town.
Mhm.
And like it just like what a good like example of how like heart and really caring for something can bet can really benefit from like a cash injection. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like that club needed that money. They
Mhm.
needed someone who had a passion to try to lift the city and this club up, and they did. And it's like what a great ending. I thought it was uh, brilliant. It was amazing.
Oh, absolutely, man. I'm totally looking forward to the next season of Welcome to Wrexham on FX. I think it's going to be really exciting. They got
Yeah, it's
a
gonna
lot
be
of great
amazing.
stuff to talk about with this past season. So,
Heck yeah.
very cool, man. Well, thanks for Marcelo. Thank you, Marcelo, again for joining me tonight. And huge thanks to all the listeners for listening. Okay, you've been listening to the Casting for Fun podcast. Thanks, everybody.